Hi everyone, my name is Anne and I'm one of the bereavement counselors for UnityPoint Hospice in Des Moines.
And I'm Mallory. I'm one of the other bereavement counselors in the Des Moines region.
And we wanted to do this video today. In years past, we've done a live presentation of how to cope with loss during the holiday season, and we would have dinner together and have a presentation. We can't do this year, but we still really wanted to join all of you and to have this conversation about the holidays because it is an incredibly difficult time of year. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and to talk about what it's like and to hopefully give you some tips for how to live with your loss during this upcoming holiday season. We're just going to be pretty casual here. We have our coffee and we're just going to make this as much of a conversation as possible. Just to kind of get the same feel as if we were in person with all of you. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through these 10 tips. Some of you may have gotten this in the mail or picked it up at one of our events, but it's available to you in the written form. So Mallory and I are going to go through each of the tips. We're going to kind of alternate between the two of us, and we're going to give you some pointers and kind of elaborate on how these tips can help you survive the holiday season. One disclaimer that I do want to mention is that these are tips to help. These are not going to solve the pain of the holiday season. They're not going to make it better. To some degree, the holidays are simply going to be painful because you're missing someone very important to you, and I can't take that away. But what these tips can do is hopefully make it a little bit easier to breathe and to hopefully find ways to make it meaningful with your family and friends. Okay, so with that, let's start with tip number 1. The first tip is simply realize that this year is going to be different and start having conversations with your loved ones about the holidays. And wow, that is such an appropriate tip, especially this year, because not only are you dealing with the loss of your loved one, we're also going through the pandemic. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should and should not do with the holidays. That's up to you and your family, and you can talk about it given your own context, giving all of your own variables. What I do want to do is simply encourage you to talk about it. What does everyone feel comfortable with? What do you want to do? Do you want to have a small gathering with masks? Would everyone feel better if everyone stayed home? Do you want to have a gathering on Zoom? All of those options are fine. What is important is that, again, you talk with your family about it and you figure out what is going to be the best fit for you and your family. Now, along with that, not only with the pandemic, it's important to have conversations with your family that the holiday is going to be different this year because you're missing your loved one. There's going to be this big absence that everyone feels. You know, maybe your loved one always cut the turkey or played on the piano some Christmas carols. So acknowledge with everyone that that's going to be different and missing this year, and that means it's going to be hard. So start talking with your family now about your feelings about the holidays, how it's going to be different, and what you think would be best going forward and what your plan is for this year.
Tip number 2 is recognize that you can decide what traditions you want to have and which ones are too painful to continue. A really new tradition you could start is the memory stocking, having your family and friends place memories in a stocking and then you all share it together, whether that's all together or through Zoom if you're choosing to have your Christmas far apart from each other. But that's something that you can start, but just be open and talk with your family about those.
And that kind of dovetails into number 3. If you all want to start a new tradition, go ahead. This is a good year to start new traditions. Like Mallory said, I think a good one is to do the memory stocking and to share either in person or on Zoom the memories you have of your loved one. Another new tradition that I've heard of people doing is they'll give a gift in honor of their loved one. They'll make some sort of monetary or physical donation, and then they'll wrap it up, and then they'll put it under the Christmas tree, and then they have everyone unwrap that gift. And it's such a good way of giving back, and it's such a good way too of remembering your loved one in the process. There are tons of new traditions that you can start, and they can all incorporate your loved one. So again, think about starting a new tradition if it's what feels right to you. However, you also don't have to change your traditions if you don't want to, but have a conversation with your family about it.
Tip number 4 is give back to your community or participate in different donations. One thing I know of people doing, you can sign up online to ring the Salvation Army bell at a location of your choice. My friends and I have done that every single year, and I've started incorporating my daughter doing that as well. And that's a really good way to bring back the meaning of Christmas as well, but also helping other people in need. If your church is doing a legacy offering or some sort of that nature, feel free to give in honor of your loved one in that way as well.
All right, so let's move on then to tip number 5. We're kind of switching directions here. Find ways to incorporate the presence of your loved one. One of my favorite sayings that I say about grief is that even when your loved one dies, the relationship does not. And so your loved one continues to be a big part of your life. And so what a way to acknowledge that and honor that by making them a part of the festivities. And there's so many ways you can do that. I know a lot of people light a candle in honor of your loved one at the table. You know, the flame kind of represents their ongoing spirit and impact on your life. I know other people have even set a whole dinner plate for them at the table. You know, and that empty space, again, acknowledges that they continue to be a part of your life. There are just so many ways to incorporate them and to remember that they are a part of your family and that you continue to remember and acknowledge them.
Going into tip number 6 is just being open and talking with your loved ones by sharing memories or stories about your loved one. If you have old videos or videos on your phone, sharing those together, talking about the good memories that you had with them, sharing over a meal, some of the funny sayings that they used to say. Everybody likes reliving those, and that's a good way to keep them a part of your traditions as well.
Okay, tip number 7. Know that you can participate in the festivities as much or as little as you would like. I think that this is a really significant one. I know from talking with a lot of clients that there's a lot of pressure on them to still decorate the house for the holidays and to still participate in all the same traditions and festivities. And I want you to know here today that I am giving you permission. You can do as much or as little with the holidays as you would like. If you don't want to decorate this year, you don't have to. If you don't want to even, do something on the day of the holiday, you don't have to. This has been a really tough year for y'all as you are grieving a loved one, and it's okay if you take a year off from this season that's all about being joyous and merry. On the other hand, though, if you do want to participate in the festivities, if you want to engage in a lot of the same traditions, if you want to decorate your house with all the same decorations, please feel free to do so. It's whatever feels right to you and whatever you think is going to help you the best with your grief and with honoring your loved one. So listen to yourself and give yourself permission to do whatever you think is best for you.
That leads really nicely into tip number 8, which is identify people that you feel comfortable talking with and feel comfortable confiding in, because now you may need their support more than ever. Sometimes it's really difficult to be vulnerable with the people you love and the people in your family. Sometimes it's easier to talk with a close friend or even a counselor, just to get those feelings out. But the important thing is to get those feelings out and to find somebody to talk with that about. because nobody wants to be alone during this time. And I know this time could be a really lonely time.
And so that kind of goes nicely into tip number 8. And tip number 8 is consider attending a support group. Many of us have wonderful family and friends, but sometimes it's really nice to talk to a neutral third party, or maybe even someone who gets it because they're going through loss at the exact same time. And so consider attending a support group. I will tell you that Mallory and I have a new one starting. And if you want more information on that, you can contact us directly and we can give you the details. But consider just trying one out and connecting with people that are going through it at the same time as you and who get it. Along with that too, consider talking to Mallory, Ruby, or I in person. We are here to support you. And we can talk in person in your home with a mask and social distance, or we can talk through a virtual session as well. There are just a lot of resources available to you. And since the holidays are so hard, I just want you to know that they're available to you and to encourage you to take advantage of them if you think that they might possibly be helpful in the slightest.
And tip number 10 is just be patient with yourself. Grief changes every aspect of our lives. And sometimes, even during the holidays, it just takes time to sort through all of those feelings and how your life is going to look moving forward. Just takes day by day, minute by minute to find a new normal. And just know that we are here to support you, and we are here to support you, and just give yourself grace during this time.
Well, that concludes our 10 tips. Like I said earlier in the video, it isn't going to solve the holidays for you. I hope, though, that it gave you something to think about and encourage you to reflect on what you want for this holiday season. And it also encouraged you to talk to your family about how you can make the most of it, considering everything you're going through right now. At the end of this video, we're going to flash Mallory, Ruby, and myself's our contact information. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this video, or if you want to talk more about the holidays and the grief that you are experiencing. Other than that, thank you again for joining us. I want to note too that Mallory and I are 6 feet apart. We measured it, but we did want to take the masks off for y'all because we wanted to make sure that you could clearly understand us, and we wanted to make sure it felt like that we are in your living room with you as we talked about this. We miss all of you, we miss the closeness, and I just hope you know that we're holding all of you in our hearts and we're here to support you. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.